This podcast is brought to you by Infinite Resources, a local staffing agency connecting diverse job candidates in central Iowa companies.
Amplified.
Welcome back to Black and Privileged in America podcast. Power, love, and money conversations relevant to Black thriving, supported by Infinite Resources. I'm your host, Abena Sankofa. Have you ever wanted to sit down with a brother and pick his brain? Ask him about love. Ask him about life without judgment? Well, today I will do just that. But first, catch Black and Privileged in America podcast on the Amplified DSM network, on the Amplified DSM YouTube channel, all social media platforms, and everywhere you listen to podcasts. Today, I'm honored to have Tommy Ross, a thought leader and advocate for change, in the studio. As a Black man, he brings valuable insights into topics ranging from relationships and fatherhood to mindset and legacy. Tommy, welcome to the show.
Hey, let's go. I'm excited to be here.
Are you? Why are you excited? I'm excited.
So I have you saved in my phone as the chosen light.
Are you kidding?
I will
Oh
show
my
you that
God.
So I'm with one of them ones today.
Oh, that's so sweet. You know what? I consider you a dear brother, and I don't say that lightly.
Yes.
You know, in our community, we are quick to claim somebody as family, as kin folks, as a cousin, you know, a brother. That's my sis and all that. Yeah. But I really consider you my brother. So you're in my phone as dear brother, brother dear, you know, really.
Yes, excited to be here.
Thank you. I mean, there comes a point for me when thinking about the way in which we have to survive in our cultural landscape right now. I want to hear from Black men. I want to know what you're thinking, what you're feeling, what you're going through, what you're dealing with. And as I said in the intro, this is an opportunity to really pick someone's brain. So thank you for being, you know, in advance, for being transparent and open.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, I want to just start with relationships. So, I mean, you told me that you're recently married.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, I mean, how did this happen? What went down? Give us all the deeds.
So, first of all, I do have a boo.
A boo.
Yeah. So, got married in August of 21. So we're coming up on 3 years.
You're still honeymooning.
Yeah, you know, in the grand scheme of things, 3 years is a really short time.
Yeah,
it's a really short time. So, how it really came to be is I have been in connection. I've been friends with, her name is Jessica. I've been friends with Jess for many years. Have actually watched her. We're both social workers. That's a piece of what I do. But that's the space that I met her in. So we were friends across time. As you know, a part of my story is I was married for 20 years, most of which were good. But when that thing crashed, it crashed.
Isn't that what happens?
Hey,
like it's good until it's not.
Until it's not.
Yeah.
So I found myself in 2014 single again. And I actually was comfortable in that space. I had some healing to do, right? I had some introspection to do. I had some growing to do, but I just appreciated being in a space where I could really focus on my children. I could help them make that transition. And in that process, Jess and I were friends. That was my companion. We was hanging out. We was talking.
You were friends.
We were friends.
Okay.
I didn't say friends with benefits.
No. Friends. Right.
I'm talking about really friends, somebody I could actually be vulnerable with and talk to. Unbeknownst to me, she was in a similar space, had been married for 17 years. When that thing crashed, it crashed. And so we connected, just moving through life in a interesting season for both of us. And then that friendship thing began to take off, and I was like, wait a minute now.
So you had no inclination that it would blossom into something more? Or was
No.
there little hints dropped here and there?
No. Well, let me say it this way. There was real attraction there, right? There was real chemistry there. So naturally, if I'm feeling you, then I could look and see, okay, like, wait a minute, that could be. But very honestly, I was in a space when we first start sharing space together. I wasn't looking for that at all.
Right.
Not at all.
When you say, because earlier in this part of our convo a moment ago, you said that you were comfortable in being single.
Yes.
So for a brother, what is that like? What do you mean by comfortable?
So something for me that has always held true is, and I hope people can just hear this in the context it's intended, I enjoy my own company.
Yeah. Okay. There we go. So you weren't like thirsty for people, or you weren't lonely at all?
So generally speaking, I don't really experience the type of loneliness that I hear other folks speak of. Generally speaking, I've certainly had some moments, but I have enough in my heart. I have enough on my mind. I have enough really significant connection and relationship that, generally speaking, I was good,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so for me, actually, what I mean when I say I enjoy being single, I enjoyed my own company. I enjoyed being able to travel, to read, to study, to go work, to really be able to. We've talked about this before. I actually have some emerging young adult children. Right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I shouldn't say emerging anymore. They're going to make 27 and 24.
Oh, they're
in
grown.
July.
Yeah.
So some grown folks, right? But I was really comfortable in my own skin. It was a great season.
So when you began to realize that this thing with Jess is becoming something different,
Yes.
you're more than friends at a certain point. What
Yes.
happened?
Two things happened specifically. One was internal. I actually really began to open myself up to the possibilities of, okay, Tommy, you actually fallen in love with this woman.
Oh, you fell.
Listen,
He fell.
Listen, brother was falling, right?
Yeah.
But honestly, there was a period of time where I was trying to fight that, even at a subconscious level, not realizing. But my feelings had grown beyond friendship, right? And you know how you get all that goo goo gaga stuff, and
Yeah.
you know, all of them things happen.
And it's so sweet and nice and wonderful.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
So those things naturally begin to happen. So I began to just open myself up to just all of the beauty of love and falling in love and everything that comes with that. But then, as somebody that's very intentional about communication, I began to say, hey, sweetheart, let's talk. We've been doing this friend thing, and that's beautiful. But
You know, when a woman says let's talk, it might mean something different than when a man says let's talk. So I'm interested in how she responded to that. Hey, let's talk. You know?
the truth of the matter is, what I later found out is her and my mama,
Oh,
who you knew very well.
Yes. God bless Miss Bobby.
Just so mama didn't actually drive. She lived the entirety of her life and never learned to drive. So as a part of Jessica and I's friendship, she began to actually come around family.
Oh,
So
wow.
she had already, she was cool with my mama.
So she was in the family. Okay.
Jess was working.
Yeah.
But she was so when I wouldn't take mama to grocery shopping or whatever she needed, Jess would come.
Mhm.
So mama and Jess had been having conversations. So when I said, hey, sweetheart, I'm ready to have this conversation, she looked at me like, brother, it's about time.
Right. What you been waiting for? What time is it? Yeah. What took
Yeah.
so long?
Yeah, it was, so she was very receptive.
That's wonderful. And so by then your family had already embraced her, I would gather.
Yes.
How are your kids with her? And and I don't know, there's children on both
Yes.
sides.
Yes.
So how is that? Are you the Brady Bunch? Is everybody good?
So I wouldn't say the Brady Bunch.
Right.
Because it wasn't no black and brown in the Brady Bunch.
Oh,
right?
oh, yeah, true.
So if you think of another bunch, right, that looks like our family looks, absolutely. So I actually call them my bonus children.
Yeah.
And there's a specific reason why I say bio and bonus. Love children immensely, whether they're mine or not. And I'm not just talking about my bonus kids, but in general, I love kids, as you know. But I had a conversation with my bonus kid's dad
Oh, here we go.
early in that process well before I asked for Jess's heart and hand in marriage. And I said, men to men, man to man, dad to dad, I want you to know that I will always hold a space for you as dad. He's a day one dad.
Wow. Okay. Hold on, Tommy.
Yeah.
This is why I call you Brother Dear. It's because your heart is so like just incredibly huge, and to even have that thought. I know so many men who haven't had that conversation and likely would not have that conversation. So what is it that moved you toward him in community to talk about this?
Well, it was two things. One of them was coming from a place of friction, if I could be honest with you. I could sense in his energy that he was uncomfortable with my presence.
Well, yeah, of course. A new guy. These are my kids. Who are you? I don't know who you are. All that.
He was uncomfortable. I could sense the kids had some discomfort, particularly if we were going to be in proximity with one another. So that was the first thing. I could sense that energy is like, okay, who is this brother? Dudes have a way of sizing each other up, not even necessarily saying anything. Mm-hmm. So I could sense that. But the other thing for me is having gone through a divorce of a long-time marriage, and my children were 16 and 13, my bio children, when I actually entered into that space. I longed for, all right, that's cool. You moving on, great. You bringing some dudes around. Who are these dudes? I longed to have those conversations with men, because sometimes I had a sense of this is who you are as a man. Cool, I'm good with that. But sometimes I didn't necessarily know.
Right.
So the other piece of that was just birthed out of me going through the process myself, thinking through the lens of a man who's entering into this space newly. That's a dude, that's a dad. I want to talk to you. So that's really what compelled me to have the conversation.
Incredible. So what was his reply to you?
It took some time.
Yeah, I know that couldn't have happened like in one sitting. This was a process, I would assume.
This was a process. Here's what was really cool about it. He met me in a space of maturity and vulnerability. And we actually sat as men and talked. Hey, bruh, this is where you are. I respect that. I see that. The one thing I wanted to convey to him more than anything else is you are a dad, you are a man, and I'm going to respect you as such.
Yeah, wow.
Whatever you have happening with your children, that's between you and your children. And he's a really solid, good dad, right? And then when you're coming out of a divorce, inevitably there's some residue there.
Yeah. And it takes a while to clean that up.
That's a process. So my thing to him was, okay, that's your ex, and y'all still gonna have a little stuff going on, but I'm asking you as a man to keep me in mind when you're communicating with her. So there's a level of respect that I'm going to extend, and I ask that you reciprocate. And we just say, hey, we're gonna journey together, and if somebody step left, then we're gonna come back to the table and say, hey, wait a minute, remember we had that conversation?
Yeah, this is our agreement. Tommy, you're amazing. I mean, wow. Okay. So I want to think about now 3 years later.
Yes.
How are the dynamics in your family now? How's everybody getting along? You know, what's the relationship with you and your bonus children's father? How is Jess coping with everything? And how are the kids?
So I would be interested to hear Jess's response to that.
Me too.
Okay. So my response to that is, it is actually even better than I thought it perhaps would be, because they were at such a raw place in one pace, at one time. I just didn't know how that was going to happen. But we're at a really good place, to the extent that when I see him, his name is Marlon. When I see Marlon, rather the children are around or not, it's genuine. What's up, bro? How you doing? It's good to see you. We stop and have a conversation. And I'm not talking about just being civil. I'm not talking about just being nice. It's a real respect from one man to another, from one dad to another. So we're in a really, really solid place. I'll give you just a snapshot. There was a period of time where I knew that our bonus kids were in the middle when their dad and I were around. And naturally that happens.
And
right?
that's an uncomfortable space for a kid to be in.
It's very uncomfortable.
Yeah, they don't want to be that. They don't want to be in the middle.
So very recently, my bonus daughter has an event, and she does competitive cheer. So naturally, we all at the competitive cheer.
Right.
So bonus son is standing with dad. I'm actually sitting with Jess and Jess's parents. They actually go on. I walk over afterwards, dap my man up, give him a hug. The bonus son also calls me Pops. So he turned around, daps me up. Hey, I love you, Pops. It's good to see you. Bonus daughter comes. She comes and grabs me. She said, hey, I want a picture with just you. Now, dad is right here. He within arm's reach. Right?
Yeah.
So, but that's how comfortable it is now. Yeah, go on, take this picture. All right.
So there's no shade anywhere. That's awesome.
It's love. It's respect. So we're in a great place.
So in order to get to this great place, I want to kind of explore your personal experiences, perhaps in your upbringing with your father. I know you talk about, in your words, I'm going to give you your words.
Yes.
Being named after a man whom you never had a meaningful relationship with. Yes. So how in the world are you this incredible man and father and bonus father, coming from the circumstance out of which you come? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, foremost, you are being incredibly gracious when you say incredible man, bonus, yada, yada.
I call it as I see it, bruh. Okay.
Well, you keep calling it then. So what I really feel like more than anything is that I feel like I am wholeheartedly committed. And that can take you into some incredible spaces. So to speak specifically, I'm Tommy Jr. I'm actually named after my father. And that was a real process and journey for me. I went through some years of really being angry, of really being bitter. And a lot of that had to do with I'm originally from Chicago. What brought us from Chicago to Des Moines is my mom and dad. My dad was horrifically violent to my mother in their relationship. And so mama understood, come from a big family, uncles, and they wasn't having that. So mama literally understood that, hey, in order for me and my kids to be safe, or for one of my brothers not to hurt him, I need to actually relocate. Mm-hmm. And that's what actually brought us to Des Moines. And so even as a child, I was aware of that heaviness, of that stain. As much as mom tried to actually keep us away from that, children know much more than we actually give them credit for.
They do. And so when you say heaviness, what do you mean by heaviness?
I mean hostility more than anything else. I wasn't privy to a lot of the violence that took place, but I was aware. And that's the interesting thing. Sometimes you cannot be in the room, but that person is carrying the heaviness or the spirit of what happened, right? So that's what I'm speaking to, just the heaviness of it, the hostility of it. There was fear there, even before I could actually put language to what I was internally experiencing. That's really what it was. So that trauma, that survival, everything that goes with that. So fast forward a little bit. I had one of the blessings in it was on my father's side of the family, I have beautiful relationships then and now with everybody on both sides of the family. So Grandmother Ross, my dad's mama, we would go to Chicago every summer, and we would oftentimes, we was primarily with my mother's side, but we would many times be at grandmama's house, and we at auntie's house and cousins on that side. And so that relationship, those relationships, not only were they preserved, they were prioritized.
That's beautiful.
I felt loved and valued. All of us did from that side of the family. So I went through that season, though, particularly in my teen years, of really being bitter. And really, because from the outside looking in, my dad was doing well. He was in car sales. He flourished in sales. So every time I seen him, like, my man looked like he was shining, like he got a sweet car and he looked put together. And I'm like, man, T. Ross over here doing the thing.
Right. Yeah. He's probably flossing. And if he was a car salesman, then he could talk his way into and out of a lot of things, I would assume.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So to bring it full circle, as I actually came into my latter teens and early 20s, I really began to go on a quest to truly understand my own purpose. And as a part of that quest, I understood, okay, I got some healing to do, right? I didn't brought some of this childhood baggage that really, that was my daddy stuff. That was my mama and daddy stuff. But why am I angry, right? So when I began to deal with that, then I began to seek after understanding in a different way. And one of those things was, hey, Dad, I actually want to sit down and have some conversations with you.
Whoa, so you did. You talked to your dad?
I did.
No, were you the only boy child?
No.
Were you the oldest child?
No,
I'm
the third
Interesting.
born.
Okay.
I'm the third born. So originally it's four of us, sister, oldest, brother, then myself, then the baby sister. My mom later adopted, so now it's five of us. But no, I'm the third born. Yeah. So I just actually sought to have some conversations with him, and really discovered some things that just helped me be able to better understand how, in his own personal journey, how he came to be the man that he was, and then that informed the parent that he was. So what ultimately happened was, I could see my father through the lens of a broken, unhealed man who never really got the help that he needed and was truly just doing the best that he could. So all of that flossing and all of that was really just stuff to deal with his own pain and trauma that he never healed from.
Do you find that those conversations and getting that kind of understanding about who your dad was, did that help you? Did it close things up for you? I mean, did it wrap things in a tiny little bow for you?
There is no bow.
There is no bow.
Even as we sit here today, the reality is my father's alive. My sister moved my father from Chicago to Des Moines about 2 years ago. It's coming up on 2 years. And the reality is, my relationship with my dad now is really a reflection of what it has been my entire life. Never been really bonded, never been really connected, never been really close. And I made some attempts in my 20s, particularly getting married the first time. And one of the things that the kid's mom, one of the things that my ex said to me is, even though you didn't have a relationship with your dad, would it be meaningful for our children to have a relationship with their grandfather? Oh,
and you said what?
And I said, yes, it would. And so I set myself on a course for a good period of time. By good period of time, I mean probably the first 7 or so years of my kids' lives. And they're 3 years apart. So it was about 10 years where just really trying to be inclusive. Hey, Dad, I got this going on. Come to the wedding. Come to, grandson was born. But he never was in a place where he chose to reciprocate any of that. And so what happened was, I made a decision. And that decision was, I don't expect anything from you. When I see you, I'm going to show you love. I'm going to maximize those moments. But I'm going to accept the relationship for what it is. And that's what I did. And here we are 25 years later.
I mean, do you think this has that relationship and all of, I don't know, what is it that propelled you into social work? Did that relationship have something to do with it?
Absolutely.
And the circumstances and everything?
Absolutely. So I didn't realize it at the time, but yes. Some of what compelled me into social work is that's a part of who God wired me to be, to go serve, to go help, to go listen, to go uplift, to go empower, encourage. That's a part of it. But absolutely, I come from an amazing family, a beautiful family.
They are so beautiful.
And you only met a few of them.
Right. I know a handful of your kinfolk, and I love everybody. Like,
and we love you.
Let me come to the cookout.
You invited. But with that, definitely, with all of that dimension came some dysfunction. And so some of what I learned is I learned what not to be, what not to do. Despite my father's absence, I have some amazing uncles. So I had very strong, solid men who were phenomenal fathers and providers. And so, but a lot of that yearning to serve came from some of my own experiences within my own family and upbringing. Absolutely.
So is there a pivotal moment? Because, I mean, we're talking about moments. So, I mean, these are moments. But is there a moment that stands out to you that has kind of shaped your mindset and your perspective on life? Because you have a mindset that for a lot of people would be aspirational, you know, to be able to look at life and come away with some semblance of positivity regardless of the circumstance. So can you maybe describe a moment that stands out to you that has had some kind of impact on the way you see life?
Wow. There are many. I'll start with one. I was in high school. My brother, that's my day one.
Your brother?
My brother.
I love to see two black men with their brother. Like the brotherhood is special.
Yeah, that's my dude right there, right? Yeah. So we're 3 years apart. Vernon goes off to college. He decides, you know what? I enjoy this, but I want something different. So he enlists. He enlisted in the Air Force.
Oh, okay.
His first assignment was in Alaska. Now, in my mindset, I hadn't traveled much as a kid. I was a poor kid on the Greyhound back and forth between Des Moines and Chicago. That's it. There was a part where I was able to go to Houston, Texas, and I thought that was like traveling around the world.
Yeah,
you couldn't tell me
it kind
nothing,
of is.
right? You couldn't tell me nothing. I'm all the way in. Okay. So, but that was really the extent of it.
Yeah.
Right?
And your brother is in Alaska.
So when he said he going to Alaska, I'm like, bro, like what happened? But as hard as that was, it was so monumental because I remember having a conversation with him about what was next. And he looked at me and he said, bruh, he said, you're going to figure it out, man. That's what we do. And there are so many times in my life that I'm in a moment, but those words resonate like, you are going to figure this out. This is what you do.
Wow.
So that was a very pivotal moment. Mm-hmm. Okay.
That moment could be on a t-shirt. Okay.
Yeah.
You are going to figure it out. This is what you do. I hope that speaks to someone.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So that was a very critical moment. Another critical moment was just a few years later, my baby sister, 3 years my younger, falls in love, gets married, graduates high school early, and decides her husband, check this story out, her husband, he was in the Army. His first assignment was also in Alaska.
Oh, Alaska's a thing here.
So Lisa, the baby, decides, I'm moving to Alaska. So on the front end of this, Vernon goes to Alaska and tells me, you're going to figure this out. On the back end, my baby sister, who had never been anywhere, had the courage to say, I'm scared. I ain't never flown before, but that's where my heart is at. I'm going. Do you know what that did? I'm like, so you literally can just decide you want to do something and get up and do it?
Yes, that's it. We can make choices. We can decide a thing and see it through.
So
wow, okay.
So there's many other moments, but those two early on in life was like, okay, this is so I'm going to figure it out because that's what I do, and I can just decide that I want to be an entrepreneur. I can just decide that I want to be a independent. I can just decide that I actually want to work for myself, and and my life has been that since then. But I saw it back then.
So the blueprint was kind of developing for you.
Yes.
And when you recognized that, you went for it?
Yes.
So tell us about a time when you went for it, Tommy.
Yes. Okay. So
you're laughing. I'm excited.
Yes.
I can't wait to hear, because I know you got this like fire for everything you commit to. So when did you go for it?
So truthfully, I've actually been going for it all along. And sometimes what going for it looks like is what you say yes to, and is what you say no to. So the first time I actually went for it was, I was a good athlete, had some real opportunities behind athletics.
Were you like football, track and field?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Football was my thing.
Okay.
I played ball, I ran track, but football was my thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But the first time I felt like I really went for it was I decided that I was not going to pursue football. And that was a very tough decision. All kind of accolades, all kinds of opportunities, but I knew that, you know what? There's actually I didn't understand what language to call it then, but football was a platform, but it wasn't my purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a sense of it. I didn't know how to say it at 19 years old, but so the first time I went for it was I said no to what everybody else was telling me was the biggest mistake. Boy, you supposed to run that ball.
See, they don't know. They don't know how. This is what grinds my gears and crumbles my cookie. Okay. Because there are people who love you,
yep.
They care about you, and they see something that you're good at, like you called it a platform, but that was not your purpose. But they want to encourage you to keep going on this platform that may not be the design for your life. Yes, yeah.
So that was one of the first times I actually went for it. It was me saying no. Fast forward, I'm young in social work, and I am working for a then retired professor. And he was the first one outside of my family to say, hey, you got a gift. You got influence with people. What do you see yourself doing? And I told him, I said, hey, I want to help the people that help. And he said, you want to do what? He said, how would you say that? I said, I just said it. He said, how would you say it? Now, keep in mind, I'm early 20s. I said, I want to help the helpers.
Wow. Help the helpers.
And he said, man, so I began to then in my early 20s, any kind of training around specific to diversity, equity, inclusion. We wasn't even calling it that then.
Yeah,
right?
It was something different back in the day.
It went through several iterations.
Sure.
Right. But just in terms of people and psychology and sociology, he began to actually, what I didn't realize was he was actually laying the foundation. But I said yes to that. Early age, became one of the shift supervisors at this group home. Here I am, 21 years old, looking at grown folks, trying to set schedules and have face-to-faces. But saying yes to that opportunity brought on a level of responsibility that then brought on all of this scrutiny, because I had grown folks saying, who you think you're talking to about how do we connect with that young person? You 21, 22 years, you can't tell me nothing. So, but saying yes to that, first of all, it was really empowering. It was really liberating.
There's something about saying yes. Yeah.
So those are two occasions, and then there's been many other things. Really, I had the opportunity years later. I was a part of a ministry, and spirituality is a part of my foundation, and that was a growing, thriving ministry. That particular pastor said, hey, I want you to actually be the satellite pastor. I'm going to set you up. I'm going to give you everything you need. But that's wasn't what God was telling me. My heart was, I could go do that. But I don't think that's what I'm supposed to do. My grandmother told me years ago, she said, you can be a powerful original or you can be a cheap copy. She said, baby, it's your choice.
Wow. Come through, Grandma.
You can be a powerful original, you can be a cheap copy. So I'm sitting there talking to the pastor, but I'm thinking about what Grandma said. And you asking me to put me over here, you want to come up with 5 different churches. I felt like you was telling me that you was gonna make me a cheap copy.
Yeah.
So
Cheap copies are popular, by the way. They really are popular.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you're not that. You are certainly a powerful original.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So all along the way, there's been many of those things that I've said yes or no to, decide to go pursue something, strike out on my own, figure it out, fail, come back. All of that has been a part of the process.
So you are a leader in thought, in deed, in action, in a lot of ways.
Talk to me.
I'm just, I'm not going to hype you up. I'm just giving you the real. I'm just calling it like I see it, So what lessons or perhaps insights have been passed down through the generations in your family that have influenced your values?
Wow. That's a big question.
And perhaps, I think you might even have had a baton passed to you at a certain point.
Yeah. So beautiful. So, foremost, I come from I say oftentimes when I'm thinking about my childhood, I say that I was relationally rich while being monetarily poor. I wouldn't change anything about the experience. Relationally rich. So first of all, in every direction I looked in as a child, there was love, there was support, there was expectation, right? I didn't just say hope. There was an expectation of me and my peers that you are going to be, you are going to do. And so that standard, that bar was set. And that's so empowering to have grown folks who believe in you in such a way that you actually adopt that belief that, hey, I'm actually supposed to advocate. I'm supposed to exercise my voice and gifts. I'm actually supposed to think for myself. I'm actually supposed to buck against static. Like, this ain't nothing big. Tommy, this is actually what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, this is who we are.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
I love it.
So that was there. But then I had a great-grandfather who I had the opportunity to meet. That trip I was talking about to Houston, originally from the St. Louis area, was in Houston, and great-grandfather took us. We went on this excursion to Galveston, right?
Beautiful island.
Greyhound kid ain't never seen nothing. I'm out there like, listen, I'm in heaven out here, right?
Yeah.
But this was the first time I had an elder sit across from me and talk to me about our history and Juneteenth. And let me tell you something about this great-grandson. And so it became apparent to me, grandmother, both of my grandmothers, highly educated, one formally, one self-educated, highly educated. So there was never a time I was around those elders where they wasn't in some way, shape, or form giving me real precious jewels. Let me tell you about who we are. Let me tell you about where we come from. I remember talking to my grandmother, the educator, years ago, and we talking about history, and she said, baby, you know who the Moors are? I said, the Moors? I'm thinking she talking about somebody like one of the families. She said, no, baby, come sit at the table.
Yes,
Tom, right?
Come and sit at grandmama's feet.
Yeah, so let me talk to you about the pioneers and architects. So, but Abena, this was my experience as a child, right? I had all of these rich conversations, but what came to be, though, when you bring up the baton, is as a former track runner, we understand that no matter how amazing your individual leg is, you can like run a record leg time and it can be amazing. You shining and everybody cheering. If you don't secure that baton exchange, you done missed it.
Yeah.
And so I really feel like I have a responsibility. It's a privilege. It's an opportunity. I'm Black and privileged, right? It's a privilege given that I have this richness that was passed on to me. But I have a responsibility not to just shine during my leg, but I want to secure the baton exchange. So I think about, obviously, those who have preceded us. Then, of course, I think about my peers, all of the Gen Xers. I think about the millennials, the Gen Zers, and the alphas, the babies coming. So I have this responsibility to nurture, to cultivate, and to secure the baton exchange to those coming behind us.
So in that vein, I mean, what do you believe the role of mentorship plays? The mentorship is almost not big enough for what you're talking about, but for the lack of a better term, and I do have a better term, it's an African term called a jegna. Jegna is a term that means the one who teaches, the one who paves the way. So jegna, yeah. So what role does that position and support play in the personal and professional growth, particularly for Black men?
First of all, spell a jegna.
You're going to make me mess it up. Jegna. Jegna.
So you just taught me something. And so I'm gonna now begin to incorporate that. So first of all, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
You actually captured something that I wrestle with. Mentorship. On one hand, I say to people that any area that I feel like I've got to a place to be able to flourish and thrive in, mentorship was pivotal in that. But I've never felt like the term mentorship captured all of the investment. It's such a deep, broad investment that mentorship doesn't capture it for me. So you just actually spoke to that. But to utilize that concept, that's it for me. So relationship, mentorship, jegna. First of all, the fact that someone has actually walked the path, they've gone before you, and they've been able to gather and glean all that they've been able to, but they yet understand that it's only their leg of the baton.
Right, their leg. Mm-hmm.
It's just their leg. So as much as they know, the beautiful part about my mentors was it was not just the belief in, Tommy, this is who you are, but it was a belief that you actually are going to do more than me, baby. You actually going to see some things and understand some things that I haven't. And so that's a huge part of it, to be able to share from my vulnerability, my experience, my pain. When I mentor, and I have the privilege to walk alongside and mentor many, I really do that from a space of vulnerability. Let's really talk about where you are personally. Let's talk about where you are professionally. I'm not you going through something, I'm gonna pray for you. No, we can pray.
Yeah, because that gets, I'm not going to say prayer gets old. I will not say that, but come on. Can we do something together, like actionally, relationally? Yeah.
So the folks who help me the most, past and present, when I'm going through, let me give you an example. When I went through the divorce, I had to file for bankruptcy. I was in a total reset financially, literally had nothing, was in the house, was out doing house shopping, didn't have nothing in the bank to put down on it, right? The folks that reached out and said, hey, bro, I'm praying for you. Very honestly, that was an irritation to my soul. I know you mean well, but you ain't even stopped to ask me, hey, are you good right now? You got groceries? You hungry? Do you need? Look, I don't need your prayer, right? Thank you. But what I actually need from you right now. So I'm a pragmatic believer. I believe in, right? I aspire to, but there's a pragmatism to me that when I come to you and when I'm mentoring, I want to have real conversations. So you tell me that there's stress and friction in the bedroom. Okay, let's talk about it. Bro, what's your hygiene habits?
Right. Okay.
Is your breath funky? You didn't came from the gym and you
don't lay down on them sheets.
Right?
You just got off a treadmill. What?
Right. So that piece of mentorship is what has helped me to thrive. People sitting down to really say, okay, I know you're praying, but do you know how to invest?
Wow.
See,
you're telling it. You're telling it. I love this. Tommy, you're a leader. You're an influencer. I know you have this platform that is now a purposed platform.
Yes.
How do you use that to promote your work, to promote positive change, even be representative in the areas that you care about? So what is your platform? How can people connect with you and utilize the wisdom that you have?
So I'm going to be real honest here. I haven't exercised my platform to the degree that I should have. And I told you this when we actually sat and met recently. I had been working independently for a number of years and saw an opportunity and kind of jumped out of that pot. I'm going to get to your question. And we sat together and I said, goodness, I said, man, I need to. It compelled me to get back to that space. Well, something else that you've been doing for years, and this conversation today perhaps was the last push I needed. Most of what I have done has been, I facilitate conversations in a lot of spaces, but if you weren't to come in those spaces, you wouldn't necessarily know, because I haven't really maximized all of the opportunities that platforms give you. And so to answer your question, in this calendar year, you will be hearing from me in a much more intentional way.
You heard it here, people. Yes.
And I want to sit with you and talk about, okay, this is what you do. Help me, because I have some ideas, but very honestly, I need some help with really how to maximize and what are the right platforms, and because I need to be in that space.
You do. I think you have so much inside of you that needs to come out and bless people. I think we'll be a better world for it. And so, yeah, we're going to sit down. We're going to talk about this. We're going to get it all the way together.
Let's do it.
For real. I'm so glad you came by the show today. And as is my tradition here at Black and Privileged in America podcast, I always ask my guests to share a book that you either are reading or have read that has moved you, challenged you, changed you. And you've got a bookshelf here.
Yeah.
What do you got?
So, first of all, I always like to start with those individuals that I know. And I have a beautiful privilege of having several people in my world, including the one and only the chosen one, the chosen light. And you're an author. So yourself and John Martin, Darlene Turner and Mark Kane. I have several folks that I know personally that I connect with. And so that's the first thing that I would say is, for those of us, particularly in this community, pay close attention to the thought leaders and the authors in this area and community. That's the first thing I would say.
Well, I just want to respond quickly before you go on, is on behalf of all of us who are authors, thank you for showing that love. I mean, it means a lot to have your own community recognize the hard work and time that you've put into creating something. And so thank you for that.
You're very welcome.
Yeah.
You're very welcome. So it's hard to choose one, but here's what I'll land on. Okay. I actually tend to, I'm a huge music lover.
Okay.
Maybe next time I come, we can actually talk about a little bit about music.
Let's talk about music. Yeah, absolutely. The soundtrack to your life. We've got to.
Yeah, I like it. So, but I have a really eclectic taste in music. Likewise, I have a really eclectic taste in what I read. So the one thing that I absolutely, my go-to though, is autobiographies or biographies. And one of the most compelling people to me that's ever walked the earth is none other than Mr. Nelson Mandela himself.
Yes, Nelson Mandela.
And so this particular book is called Mandela's Way, Lessons on Life, Love, and Courage.
May I hold it up?
You can. Please do.
Okay, so you've already read it?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So I think that life is compelling enough on its own. So I tend to stay away from fiction. I tend to, and that's the thing that pulls me from, into autobiographies and biographies. So really, really compelling stuff. I'll give you another author though. There's so many that are moving to me, but the late, great Toni Morrison.
Oh my goodness. That's my favorite author of all time.
Really?
Yes. I love Toni Morrison.
Listen, Toni, as you well know, you talking about just an inexhaustible library and she's there's just so much there. It just seems never ending. So I'm into autobiographies.
I mean, your first two choices for me, my dad always told me that as long as Maya Angelou, Nelson Mandela, and Toni Morrison were in the world, we had hope. Then they died. I was like, oh no. But yeah, thank you. So what else you got?
Yes. So I just have some other things. You familiar with Brian Stevenson?
I am. Just Mercy and many other things in the Equal Justice Initiative.
Oh, you already know.
Yeah.
You already know. So his story, so incredibly.
May I hold it up?
Please do. Please do. His story, so incredibly compelling. Here's just a couple things that I've actually been reading lately, but I actually have a question for you.
Okay.
As we sit today, I have not picked up my next read. So this Samuel Chan, Leadership Pain, I love it. I've had it. I've been reading it. This was actually given to me. I didn't initially want to read David Goggins because the name of it is Can't Hurt Me. That just sounded like it was just some toxic masculinity. I was like, do I want to read that? But actually, it's some good stuff in there.
Really? Okay. Some good nuggets in that book. Nuggets. Okay.
But as I sit today,
sure.
And anybody listening, hearing what I love, if there's something that comes to mind that you say, Tommy, you got to get this next. I haven't found my next read yet.
Well, a couple of things come to mind for me. When you mentioned Toni Morrison, I'm rereading a little tiny book that she wrote it was an essay that became a book called Playing in the Dark. And it explores the racial tension and dynamic between Black America and white America in academia. So that's one. I just say, just feast on that on the side. Playing in the Dark by Toni Morrison. And then gifted to me a few weeks ago by a guest was the biography of Berry Gordy. Really? So you got to get this book. It is absolutely phenomenal. And there's pictures. There's pictures from his time as a little child to the founding of Motown and all through his lives and wives and children. And it's a really fascinating read because he's one of those figures that we see publicly or we hear about, but we haven't heard from him. Yeah. So it's his way of setting the record straight. So
powerful.
I would say those two.
Okay.
Yeah.
Say less.
Tommy, thank you so much for being here today and for being a beacon of light and empowerment for not only me and our friendship, but for our community and beyond. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you for leading us. Keep leading.
I'll do my best.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us on this meandering and beautiful journey with Tommy Ross. His wisdom and experiences have shed such light that I have no doubt his words will continue to resonate with us long after this episode ends. Subscribe, like, and share. Find Black and Privileged in America podcast on www.amplifydsm.com and my website, abenasankofa.com. Stay engaged, stay curious, keep striving. Thanks for listening. Until next time.